The cloudless Wyoming sky burned like molten copper as Lily Hargrove clutched her traveling case and stared at the weathered signpost marking the boundary of the Promise Creek Ranch. Father's final words echoed in her mind. "You leave with that fancy education of yours, but don't you dare come back pregnant and disgraced." Yet here she stood in 1878, 6 months gone with child, nowhere else to turn, and a strange cowboy approaching the gate that separated her from potential salvation. Lily adjusted her loose-fitting dress, grateful for the fashion that somewhat concealed her condition. 3 years at the Women's College in Boston seemed like another lifetime now. She'd left Wyoming at 18, determined to become a schoolteacher, to escape the suffocating expectations of her father's cattle empire. Now 21 and unmarried, she was the very embodiment of the scandal her father had forbidden. The cowboy drew closer, his face shadowed beneath a wide-brimmed hat. Tall and broad-shouldered, he moved with the easy confidence of a man accustomed to hard work. His chaps were dusty, his shirt faded from sun and washing. Nothing like the polished gentleman of Boston who spoke of poetry and philosophy while harboring darker intentions. "Madam?" His voice carried across the distance between them. "You lost." Lily swallowed hard. "No, sir. I'm looking to speak with whoever owns this ranch." The cowboy reached the gate, studying her with eyes the color of a summer storm. That'd be Preston Blackwood. He glanced at her traveling case, then back to her face. "You got business with him?" "Aye," Lily faltered. How could she explain her predicament to a stranger? "I'm seeking employment." Something in his expression softened. Without further questions, he unlatched the gate and swung it wide. "Come on through, then. Ranch house is about a mile up this road." Lily hesitated. "Are you certain, mister?" "Blackwood is hiring." The cowboy's mouth curved into a slight smile. "I reckon he might be. I'm Preston Blackwood." Heat flooded Lily's face. Of all the ways to meet her potential employer dusty, desperate, and mistaking him for a hired hand. "Forgive me, Mr. Blackwood, I didn't realize." "No harm done." He reached for her traveling case. "Let me help you with that." "Thank you, but I can manage." Lily clutched the case tighter, suddenly fearful he might notice the swell of her belly beneath her loose dress. Preston regarded her for a long moment, then nodded. "Suit yourself." "You walked from town?" "Yes." The 5-mile journey had taken most of the morning, each step a reminder of how few options remained. "You're determined, I'll give you that." He whistled, and a chestnut mare trotted toward them from a nearby pasture. "Horse might make the rest of the journey easier." Lily eyed the animal warily. "I haven't ridden in some time. Buttercup here's gentle as they come." He patted the horse's neck. "I'll walk alongside if that eases your mind." The kindness in his voice nearly undid her. After months of cold shoulders and judging eyes, such simple decency felt foreign. "Thank you, Mr. Blackwood." He helped her mount, his hands strong and steady at her waist. If he noticed anything unusual about her figure, he made no mention of it. The mile to the ranch house passed in relative silence. Lily took in the rolling pastures dotted with cattle, the distant mountains cradling the valley like protective arms. Promise Creek Ranch was smaller than her father's spread, but meticulously maintained. A 2-story house of weathered wood and stone stood flanked by a large barn and several outbuildings. "It's lovely," she said, meaning it. Preston glanced up at her. "Built it myself. Took 3 years. You've accomplished much for someone so young." She guessed him to be no more than 30. 28 next month, he confirmed. Started with nothing but determination and a willingness to work harder than the next man. He helped her dismount when they reached the hitching post. "What sort of position were you hoping for, miss?" "Hargrove, Lily Hargrove." She straightened her dress nervously. "I'm trained as a teacher, but I'm capable of cooking, cleaning, bookkeeping, whatever you might need." His eyebrows rose slightly at her name. "Hargrove, any relation to James Hargrove over at Silver Creek?" Lily's throat tightened. "My father." Understanding dawned in Preston's eyes. He looked at her more carefully now, taking in details he might have missed before. "I see. Please, she said quickly. "I'd prefer if my presence here remained between us for now." He studied her for a long moment. "Miss Hargrove, I make it a policy not to involve myself in other people's affairs. But I should tell you that your father and I aren't exactly on friendly terms. That's precisely why I came here." Lily summoned her courage. "I need work, Mr. Blackwood. I need somewhere to stay where my father won't immediately find me." Preston's gaze dropped briefly to her midsection before returning to her face. His expression remained carefully neutral. "Come inside. We can discuss this further after you've had something to drink." Wyoming sun's unforgiving, especially to those unused to it. The interior of the ranch house surprised Lily. While the furnishings were simple, everything was clean and well arranged. Bookshelves lined one wall of the sitting room, filled with volumes that would have impressed her Boston professors. Preston noticed her gaze. "Reading passes the winter months." He disappeared into the kitchen, returning moments later with 2 glasses of cool water. Lily accepted one gratefully, trying to ignore how her hand trembled. "Now," he said, settling into a chair across from her, "let's be plain with each other. You're running from something or someone. Given your condition, I can guess why." Lily nearly choked on her water. "You noticed." "I've worked with livestock all my life, Miss Hargrove. I recognize the signs." His voice held no judgment, just simple observation. "And yet you still opened your gate to me. A person in need is a person in need." He set his glass down. "Your father's reputation precedes him. He's not known for forgiveness." Lily's eyes burned with unshed tears. "He told me never to return if I—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Preston nodded slowly. "I do need help around here. My housekeeper left last month to care for her ailing sister in Denver. But you should understand something folks talk. If James Hargrove's daughter suddenly appears at Promise Creek pregnant and unmarried, there will be gossip." "I'm aware." Lily straightened her shoulders. "I'm not asking for charity, Mr. Blackwood. I'll work hard for my keep." "I don't doubt that." He studied her carefully. "How far along are you?" 6 months, he calculated silently. "That leaves us 3 months to figure out a more permanent arrangement." Hope fluttered in Lily's chest. "Does that mean you'll hire me?" "Provisionally." Preston stood. "You can have the room upstairs at the end of the hall. It's small but has its own wash basin. I'll expect you to keep the house, prepare meals, and help with the bookkeeping. In exchange, you'll have room, board, and $10 monthly." It was more than fair, considering her circumstances. "Thank you, Mr. Blackwood. I won't disappoint you." "Preston," he corrected. "If you're living in my house, we might as well use first names." "Preston," she repeated, the name feeling strangely intimate on her tongue. He showed her to her room, carrying her case despite her protests. The space was indeed small but clean, with a narrow bed, a chest of drawers, and a window overlooking the distant mountains. "Rest today," he said, setting down her case. "Tomorrow's soon enough to start work." Left alone, Lily sank onto the bed, overwhelmed by the day's events. She placed a protective hand over her belly, feeling the child shift beneath her palm. "We'll be all right," she whispered, hoping it wasn't a lie. The first week at Promise Creek passed in a blur of activity. Lily threw herself into her duties, determined to prove her worth. She rose before dawn to prepare breakfast for Preston and his 2 ranch hands, Lewis and Charlie. She swept, dusted, washed, and mended, ignoring the growing ache in her lower back. Preston seemed to materialize whenever a task grew too strenuous. "Let me get that," he'd say, taking a heavy bucket or reaching for something on a high shelf. His consideration extended to her diet as well. Fresh milk appeared daily, along with eggs and the season's first vegetables from the small kitchen garden. One evening, after the ranch hands had returned to their cabin and dinner was cleared away, Preston invited Lily to join him on the porch. The sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson, casting long shadows across the land. "You've been working too hard," he said without preamble. Lily shook her head. "I'm earning my keep." "There's earning your keep, and then there's driving yourself to exhaustion." His gaze was direct. It's not good for you or the child. The mention of her pregnancy still made her flush with shame. I'm accustomed to hard work. That may be, but circumstances change. His voice softened. You're not alone in this, Lily. While you're under my roof, you have support. The kindness in his words threatened to undo her careful composure. Why are you being so decent to me? You don't even know me. Preston was quiet for a long moment, his eyes on the distant horizon. I know what it's like to face the world alone. When I first came to Wyoming, I had nothing but the clothes on my back and a desperate need to prove myself. How did you come to own all this? Lily gestured to the ranch spreading before them. Luck, hard work, and learning from mistakes. He smiled slightly. Mostly the latter. My father says you stole water rights from neighboring ranchers. Preston's expression hardened. Your father would say that. Truth is, I purchased those rights legally when others thought the land worthless. Then I dug wells where they said water couldn't be found. He looked at her. James Hargrove doesn't like being proven wrong. No, Lily agreed softly. He doesn't. Is that why you left? To prove him wrong about something. The question struck closer to truth than Lily cared to admit. I left because I wanted more than marriage to whichever cattle baron my father deemed suitable. I wanted education, independence. And now, Lily's hand moved unconsciously to her belly. Now I want safety for my child. Preston nodded, understanding in his eyes. The father, a professor. The admission burned her throat. He spoke of marriage, of a life together until she couldn't continue. Until he learned of the child, Preston finished for her. He already had a wife in Philadelphia. Lily blinked back tears. I discovered that particular detail far too late. Preston's jaw tightened. Some men don't deserve the title. They sat in companionable silence until darkness fell completely. As Lily rose to return inside, Preston spoke again. Your secret is safe here, Lily, for as long as you need it to be. The promise wrapped around her like a blanket against the night's chill. For the first time in months, Lily slept without nightmares. As June blossomed into July, Promise Creek Ranch settled into a rhythm. Lily's pregnancy became more pronounced, but the isolation of ranch life spared her from prying eyes. Only when Preston rode into town for supplies did she worry about gossip reaching her father. Did anyone ask about me? She questioned each time he returned. No one who matters, he always answered, but the tightness around his eyes told a different story. On a particularly hot afternoon, Lily was kneading bread dough when she heard raised voices outside. She moved to the window to see Preston confronting a well-dressed man on horseback. Even at a distance, she recognized her father's foreman, Bert Rollins. Heart-pounding, she retreated from the window, praying she hadn't been seen. Minutes later, Preston entered the kitchen, his expression grim. Rollins, Lily whispered. Preston nodded. Looking for stray cattle, or so he claims. Did he see me? No, but it's only a matter of time before your father learns you're here. Preston wiped sweat from his brow. We should prepare for that eventuality. Though we didn't escape Lily's notice, I've brought you nothing but trouble. Trouble and excellent apple pie. His attempt at levity fell flat. Lily, I need to ask you something, and I want an honest answer. She wiped flour from her hands nervously. All right. What are your plans after the baby comes? The question had haunted her for months. I had hoped to find work as a teacher somewhere far from here, but with a child and no husband. She trailed off, the impossibility of her situation painfully apparent. Preston paced the kitchen, hands clasped behind his back. There's another option. He stopped, facing her directly. Marriage. Lily stared at him, certain she'd misheard. Pardon? A marriage of convenience, he clarified. Your child would have my name, and you'd have the protection that comes with it. Your father couldn't touch you or the baby. The proposition was so unexpected that Lily could only gape at him. You can't be serious. I'm entirely serious. Preston's gaze was steady. I'm not proposing out of romantic notions, Lily. I'm offering a practical solution to a difficult situation. Why would you do such a thing? Lily searched his face for hidden motives. You barely know me. I know enough. He stepped closer. I know you're courageous, hardworking, and determined to protect your child at any cost. Those are qualities I respect. But marriage, it's a lifetime commitment. Preston nodded. I understand that. I'm 30 years old, Lily. I've built this ranch from nothing, but a man needs more than land and cattle to leave a legacy. I've always wanted children. The child isn't yours, she reminded him softly. No, but he or she could be, in all the ways that matter. His voice grew passionate. I'm offering to be a father to this child, to give you both security and respect. Lily felt dizzy with the implications. People would talk. People always talk. Let them. Preston took her hands in his. Think about it, that's all I ask. After he left for the afternoon's work, Lily sat at the kitchen table, bread forgotten. Marriage to Preston Blackwood. The idea should have seemed absurd, yet instead, it ignited a spark of hope she'd thought long extinguished. He was handsome, certainly, in a rugged, weathered way that spoke of honest labor rather than manufactured charm. More importantly, he was kind, genuinely kind, not the calculating benevolence she'd encountered in Boston that always came with expectations. Still, marriage without love. Could she commit to such an arrangement? And what of Preston? Would he eventually resent the burden of another man's child? The questions chased each other through her mind as July melted into August. Preston didn't press her for an answer, but the weight of the unresolved question hung between them. On a sweltering August evening, disaster struck. Lily was hanging laundry when pain lanced through her abdomen, sharp and insistent. She gasped, clutching at the clothesline for support. A second spasm followed, stronger than the first. Preston. She called, but her voice emerged as little more than a whisper. The ranch hands were out checking fence lines, and Preston had ridden to the north pasture hours ago. Another contraction gripped her, and Lily sank to her knees in the dirt. Too early, she thought desperately. It's too early. She wasn't sure how long she remained there, drifting in and out of consciousness as pain washed over her in relentless waves. The sound of hoofbeats penetrated her haze of agony, followed by a shout. Lily, Preston's voice reached her, as if from a great distance. Then his arms were around her, lifting her as though she weighed nothing. Hold on, he murmured. Just hold on. He carried her to the house, laying her gently on her bed. The baby's coming, she gasped. It's too soon. His face was tight with worry. I'll ride for the doctor. Lily clutched at his arm. No time, please don't leave me. The fear in her eyes must have convinced him. All right. He visibly steeled himself. I've delivered calves and foals. The principle can't be so different. Despite her pain, Lily managed a weak laugh. I'm glad you see the similarity. What followed was a night of agony and terror. Preston worked tirelessly, his hands steady even as sweat dripped from his brow. He spoke in soothing tones, encouraging Lily through each contraction, never once betraying the fear she knew he must feel. As dawn broke, a tiny, perfect cry filled the room. A girl, Preston announced, his voice thick with emotion. You have a daughter, Lily. He placed the swaddled infant in Lily's trembling arms. Despite arriving 6 weeks early, the baby was surprisingly robust, with a shock of dark hair and a determined wail that spoke of her will to live. She's beautiful, Lily whispered, tears streaming down her face. Preston's expression as he gazed at the child stole Lily's breath. There was no disgust or reluctance, only wonder and something that looked remarkably like love. What will you name her? He asked softly. Lily looked from the baby to the man who had delivered her with such care. Hope, she decided. Her name is Hope. Later, after both mother and child had been cleaned and settled, Preston sat beside the bed, his usually neat appearance disheveled from the night's ordeal. You saved us, Lily said, her voice weak but heartfelt. Preston shook his head. You did the hard part. My answer is yes, she said suddenly. He looked at her, confusion evident in his tired eyes. To your proposal, Lily clarified. If the offer still stands, I accept. Understanding dawned on his face. You're certain this isn't gratitude speaking? Perhaps partly, she admitted. But it's more than that. I've seen how you look at Hope. You already care for her. I do. His voice was gruff with emotion. She's a miracle. Then let's give her your name. Lily reached for his hand. Let's be a family, Preston. The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise after the longest night. I'll ride for the preacher tomorrow. 3 days later, with Hope sleeping peacefully in a makeshift cradle and Lewis and Charlie as witnesses, Lily Hargrove became Lily Blackwood. The ceremony was brief, the preacher discreetly overlooking the tiny infant and Lily's obvious recent childbirth. By the power vested in me, the elderly man concluded, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. Preston hesitated, then leaned forward to place the gentlest of kisses on Lily's lips. It was their first kiss, chaste and brief, yet Lily felt something stir within her that had nothing to do with the practical arrangement they'd agreed upon. That night, Preston slept on a pallet in the sitting room, insisting Lily needed rest. As she nursed Hope in the quiet darkness, Lily wondered what sort of marriage they would have. Would it always be this careful distance, this polite consideration, or might something more grow between them? The answer began to reveal itself in the weeks that followed. Preston proved to be a devoted father, spending every spare moment with Hope. He rocked her when she cried, sang off key lullabies that nonetheless soothed her, and built a proper cradle with his own hands. You're good with her, Lily observed one evening as Preston walked the colicky infant around the sitting room. He looked up, surprise evident in his expression. She makes it easy. She's got your determination. And your patience, apparently. Lily smiled as Hope's cries subsided into contented gurgles. She responds to you better than to me sometimes. Nonsense. She adores her mother. Preston's gaze lingered on Lily's face. She's not the only one. The words hung in the air between them, weighted with meaning neither was quite ready to acknowledge. Lily busied herself with needlework, her cheeks warm. Preston returned to pacing with Hope, but something had shifted. A door cracked open that had previously been closed. September brought cooler weather and the cattle roundup. Preston worked from dawn until well after dusk, returning to the house exhausted but always making time to hold Hope before collapsing into bed. One evening, as Lily sat on the porch watching the sunset, Preston joined her, his expression troubled. "What is it?" she asked, instantly alert to his mood. "Your father." Preston didn't soften the blow. "He knows you're here, knows about Hope." Lily's blood ran cold. "How?" "Town gossip, most likely. He sent a message with Rollins. He's coming tomorrow to discuss the situation." "No," panic clawed at Lily's throat. "He can't take her, Preston. He can't take my baby." Preston knelt before her, taking her hands in his. "Listen to me, Lily. You're my wife now. Hope is legally my daughter. Your father has no claim on either of you. You don't know him like I do." Tears welled in Lily's eyes. "He doesn't forgive, and he doesn't forget. If he can't control me, he'll try to destroy me, destroy us. Let him try." The steel in Preston's voice was matched by the determination in his eyes. "This is my land, my home, my family. James Hargrove doesn't dictate terms here." The fierce protectiveness in his declaration stirred something profound in Lily's heart. This was more than their arranged agreement. This was a man defending what he cherished. "We should face him together," she said, finding courage in Preston's resolve. He nodded, pride evident in his gaze. "Together." James Hargrove arrived precisely at noon the following day, a cloud of dust announcing his approach long before he reached the ranch house. Lily stood on the porch, Hope cradled against her shoulder, Preston a solid presence beside her. Her father hadn't changed, still imposing at 60, his beard more gray than brown now, but his eyes as cold and calculating as ever. He dismounted with the ease of a man half his age, handing the reins to Rollins before approaching the porch. "Lillian." His voice was as she remembered, deep and unyielding. "Father." She straightened her spine, refusing to cower. "This is my husband, Preston Blackwood." James's gaze flicked dismissively to Preston. "So I've heard. Quite the convenient arrangement." "There's nothing convenient about love, mister." "Hargrove." Preston's tone was deceptively mild. Would you care to meet your granddaughter? The older man's expression hardened. That child is no kin of mine. Lily flinched as though struck, but Preston's hand at the small of her back steadied her. That's where you're wrong, he said. Hope is my daughter in every way that matters, which makes her your granddaughter by law if not by blood. Hope, James snorted. A fitting name for a bastard. Preston moved so quickly that Lily barely registered it until he stood nose to nose with her father. You will not use that word in reference to my child. Not ever. Do I make myself clear? For perhaps the first time in his life, James Hargrove appeared taken aback. He recovered quickly, however. I came to make an offer, Lillian. Return to Silver Creek without the child and all will be forgiven. Your reputation can be salvaged with a suitable story about a widow's retreat. And hope, Lily's voice trembled with barely contained fury. Arrangements can be made. There are places for such children. Orphanages, you mean? The very thought made Lily clutch Hope tighter. Never. James's face darkened. Then you leave me no choice. I'll see to it that everyone from here to Cheyenne knows exactly what sort of woman my daughter has become. And as for you, Blackwood, he turned to Preston, your water rights will be challenged, your cattle mysteriously found on my land, your supplies mysteriously delayed or damaged. This marriage won't save you. Preston's laugh surprised everyone, including Lily. Is that the best you can do, Hargrove? Threats and bullying? I expected more creativity from a man of your reputation. You mock me at your peril, boy. No, sir, I speak to you as one man to another. Preston's voice hardened. You came here thinking you'd intimidate your daughter into abandoning her child. You thought wrong. Lily is my wife, Hope is my daughter, and this is our home. You're welcome to visit your granddaughter if you ever decide to behave like a grandfather should. Otherwise, I suggest you leave. The tension between the two men crackled like lightning before a storm. Lily held her breath, wondering if her father would resort to violence. Instead, James Hargrove's gaze shifted to Hope, who had begun to fuss at the raised voices. For the briefest moment, something like regret flickered across his weathered face. Then it was gone, replaced by his customary stony expression. You've made your choice, Lillian. He turned abruptly and strode back to his horse. Don't come crying to me when this all falls apart. They watched in silence as he and Rollins rode away, dust swirling in their wake. Only when they were specks on the horizon did Lily release the breath she'd been holding. Are you all right? Preston asked, concern evident in his voice. Lily nodded, unexpected tears blurring her vision. I knew he wouldn't accept Hope, but hearing him speak of her that way. He's a fool. Preston gently wiped a tear from her cheek. A blind, stubborn fool who can't see the treasure right in front of him. The tenderness in his touch undid her completely. Lily leaned into his embrace, Hope nestled securely between them. Thank you for defending us. Preston's arms tightened around her. Always. That night, after Hope was settled in her cradle, Lily found Preston on the porch, staring at the star-filled sky. She joined him, their shoulders touching as they stood in companionable silence. Did you mean what you said to my father? She asked finally. About love not being convenient? Preston turned to face her, his expression serious in the moonlight. I did, Preston. Lily hesitated, uncertain how to express the feelings that had been growing within her. This arrangement between us, it's become more than I expected. For me as well. His voice was husky with emotion. Lily, when I proposed, I thought I was offering you security, nothing more. I didn't anticipate. What? She prompted when he trailed off. I didn't anticipate falling in love with you. The words were simple, direct, like the man himself. I didn't expect to wake each morning eager to see your face, to hear your voice, to watch you with hope. I didn't expect any of it, but here we are. Joy bloomed in Lily's chest, bright and overwhelming. I love you too, she whispered. I think perhaps I have for some time. Preston's hand cupped her cheek, his touch reverent. May I kiss my wife properly now? In answer, Lily rose on tiptoe, her lips meeting his in a kiss that began gently but quickly deepened into something more passionate. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. I believe, Preston said, his forehead resting against hers, that it's time I moved out of the sitting room. Lily laughed, her heart lighter than it had been in years. I believe you're right. Their first night together as true husband and wife was a revelation. Preston's tenderness, his concern for her comfort, his obvious delight in her body all spoke of a man not merely fulfilling marital duties, but expressing genuine love. Afterward, as they lay tangled in the sheets, Lily traced the scars on his chest, evidence of the hard life he'd lived. Tell me about them, she murmured. Preston caught her hand, kissing her fingertips. Another time, tonight is for happier thoughts. You make me happy. The admission came easily now. Happier than I ever thought possible after everything that happened. Good, he pulled her closer. Because I intend to spend the rest of my life ensuring that happiness continues. As autumn painted the landscape in brilliant colors, the Blackwood family settled into a new normal. Preston expanded the house, adding a proper nursery for Hope and a small study where Lily could pursue her love of books. The threat of James Hargrove loomed, but as weeks passed without incident, the fear gradually receded. December arrived with a heavy snowfall that blanketed Promise Creek in white. On Christmas Eve, Preston and Lily sat before the fire, Hope sleeping contentedly in her father's arms. I have something for you, Preston said, reaching into his pocket. He handed Lily a small wooden box. Inside lay a delicate gold locket. When opened, it revealed a tiny portrait of Hope on one side and Preston on the other, both expertly rendered in miniature. It's beautiful, Lily breathed, tracing the intricate engravings on the outer case. Open the back, Preston encouraged. Lily did so, finding words inscribed inside. For the woman who opened my heart with eternal love, P. Tears welled in her eyes. When did you have this made? I commissioned it months ago, had it sent from Denver. Preston's expression was tender. Do you like it? I love it. Lily leaned forward to kiss him, careful not to disturb Hope. I have something for you as well, though it can't be wrapped or placed in a box. Preston raised an eyebrow, curious. I'm with child again, Lily said softly. Your child this time, the doctor confirmed it yesterday. Joy transformed Preston's face. He looked from Lily to Hope, then back again, momentarily speechless. A baby, he finally managed. Our baby. Due in July. Lily placed her hand over his. Are you pleased? Pleased doesn't begin to describe it. He kissed her with such tenderness that fresh tears sprang to her eyes. You've given me everything I never knew I wanted, Lily Blackwood. A family, a home filled with love, a future brighter than I dared imagine. We've given these things to each other, she corrected gently. Outside, snow continued to fall, blanketing the world in peaceful white. Inside, warmth and love filled every corner of the home Preston had built and Lily had transformed. Hope slept on, unaware of the joy surrounding her or the new life growing alongside her in her mother's womb. In the spring, an unexpected visitor arrived at Promise Creek. Lily was in the garden, Hope toddling beside her on unsteady legs, when the sound of an approaching carriage drew her attention. The vehicle was fine, clearly expensive, pulled by a matched pair of grays. It stopped at the gate, and a figure emerged that made Lily's heart stutter. Father, James Hargrove, stood uncertainly at the gate, his appearance somehow diminished since their last encounter. He carried a package wrapped in brown paper and tied with string. Lillian. He nodded stiffly. I wondered if I might have a word. Lily scooped Hope into her arms, protective instinct flaring. Preston's in the barn. It's you I came to see, you and... His eyes fixed on Hope, who regarded him solemnly with eyes remarkably like his own. The child. After a moment's hesitation, Lily opened the gate. Come inside, then. James followed her to the house, moving with none of his usual commanding presence. In the sitting room, he perched awkwardly on the edge of a chair while Lily settled Hope on a quilt with her wooden toys. She's grown, he observed. Children tend to do that. Lily couldn't keep the edge from her voice. James sighed heavily. I deserve your anger, Lillian. I've come to acknowledge that. The admission was so unexpected that Lily could only stare at him. "Why now, your mother?" He placed the package on the table between them. "Before she died, she made me promise to look after you to ensure your happiness. I convinced myself that meant controlling your choices, protecting you from mistakes." He glanced at Hope. "I was wrong." Lily's throat tightened with emotion. "Yes, you were. I'm not asking for forgiveness," James continued. "Merely the opportunity to know my granddaughter, and perhaps in time to repair what I've broken between us." Hope chose that moment to toddle over, curious about the stranger. She offered him a wooden block, her expression solemn. James accepted it with trembling hands. "Thank you," he said gravely. "Her name is Hope," Lily said softly. "Hope." James turned the block over in his weathered hands. "A good name, strong, like her mother." Preston's voice came from the doorway. He entered, his expression guarded as he took in the scene. "Mr. Hargrove." James rose, facing the younger man. "Blackwood, I owe you an apology as well. My behavior was inexcusable." Preston moved to stand beside Lily, his hand resting supportively on her shoulder. "It's Lily and Hope who deserve your apology." "Yes." James turned back to his daughter. "I was wrong, Lillian. I was prideful and rigid, and I nearly lost you because of it. Can you find it in your heart to give an old man another chance?" Lily looked up at Preston, finding strength in his steady gaze. "That depends," she said carefully. "Are you willing to accept my life as it is?" "My husband, my children," she corrected, her hand moving to her slightly rounded belly. James's eyes widened at the implication. "You're expecting again." "We are." Preston's voice contained unmistakable pride. Something in James's expression softened. "I've been a fool," he said quietly. "A stubborn old fool who couldn't see that happiness comes in forms we don't always anticipate." He picked up the package, offering it to Lily. "This was your mother's. She wanted you to have it when you started your own family." Lily unwrapped the paper to find a hand-stitched quilt of extraordinary craftsmanship. She recognized her mother's delicate needlework in every careful stitch. "It's beautiful. She made it during her pregnancy with you." James's voice grew husky with memory. "Said every stitch was a prayer for your future happiness." Tears filled Lily's eyes as she ran her fingers over the intricate patterns. "Thank you for bringing it to me. Will you allow me to be part of your lives?" James asked, his usual commanding tone replaced by genuine humility. "I've missed so much already. I don't want to miss more." Lily exchanged a glance with Preston, who gave a slight nod. "We can try," she said finally. Slowly, one step at a time, relief washed over her father's face. "That's more than I deserve." As James prepared to leave, having spent an hour awkwardly but earnestly attempting to connect with Hope, he paused at the door. "Your husband is a good man, Lillian, better than I gave him credit for." "The best man I know," Lily agreed, leaning into Preston's embrace. James nodded, something like approval in his eyes. "I'll return next month if that's acceptable, perhaps stay a bit longer." "We'd like that," Preston said, extending his hand. James hesitated only briefly before shaking it. The gesture was small but significant, a beginning. After he left, Lily and Preston stood on the porch, watching the carriage disappear down the road. Hope played at their feet, babbling happily to herself. "Are you all right?" Preston asked, his arm around Lily's waist. She nodded, leaning her head against his shoulder. "It's strange. For so long, I feared him, resented him. Now I just feel sad for all the time wasted. There's time still." Preston placed his hand over hers where it rested on her growing belly. "For all of us." July arrived once more, bringing with it scorching heat and the birth of their son. The labor was easier this time, quicker, with Preston providing steady support throughout. When the doctor placed the red-faced, squalling infant in his arms, Preston's expression of wonder was identical to the one he'd worn when first holding Hope. "He has your eyes," he told Lily, placing the swaddled baby in her arms, "and your chin." Lily traced the tiny features with a gentle finger. "He's perfect. What shall we name him?" Preston sat on the edge of the bed, one arm around Lily, the other reaching to where Hope peered curiously at her new brother. "What about James?" Lily suggested. "After my father." Preston's eyebrows rose in surprise. "Are you certain?" "I think it would mean a great deal to him." Lily studied the infant's face. "James Preston Blackwood. It's a good name." Preston kissed her temple. "A name with history and future both." 2 days later, James Hargrove arrived for his now monthly visit, unaware of his new grandson's birth or name. When Lily placed the baby in his arms and told him the child's name, the old man's eyes filled with tears he made no attempt to hide. "I'm honored," he said gruffly, looking from the infant to his daughter with naked emotion. "Deeply honored." That evening, after James had gone and the children were asleep, Preston found Lily on the porch swing, gazing at the stars. He joined her, his arm automatically finding its place around her shoulders. "Happy?" he asked. Lily nodded, content beyond words. "Do you ever think about how different things might have been if you hadn't opened that gate for me that day?" Preston considered the question. "I believe some things are meant to be, gate or no gate, but I'm grateful every day that you found your way to Promise Creek." "As am I." Lily turned to face him fully. "My father warned me never to come back pregnant, but I did just that. And you opened your gate without asking questions, without judgment. Best decision I ever made." Preston's kiss was gentle, filled with promise. "I opened a gate, but you, Lily Blackwood, you opened a future." Above them, stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, witnessing the love that had grown from desperate circumstances into something enduring and true. Inside the house, Hope and James slept peacefully, secure in the knowledge of their parents' devotion. And on the porch, wrapped in each other's arms, Lily and Preston savored the quiet miracle of their shared life, a life neither had anticipated, but both now cherished beyond measure. In the years that followed, Promise Creek Ranch prospered and expanded. 2 more children joined the family, twin girls named Elizabeth and Margaret, born on a snowy December night in 1882. James Hargrove became a doting grandfather to all 4 children, his relationship with Lily healing with each passing season. The neighboring ranchers who had once whispered about Lily's mysterious arrival and sudden marriage gradually came to respect the Blackwoods as pillars of the community. Preston's innovative ranching methods brought prosperity to the entire valley, while Lily eventually fulfilled her dream of teaching, establishing a small school on their property where children from surrounding ranches could receive an education. Hope grew into a spirited young woman with her mother's intelligence and her adoptive father's steady determination. Though she knew the circumstances of her birth, Lily and Preston had agreed never to hide the truth from her. She never doubted her place in the family or Preston's love for her. "Blood doesn't make a father," Preston told her on her 16th birthday. "Love does, and I've loved you from the first moment I held you." On their 20th wedding anniversary, Preston surprised Lily with a journey to Boston, retracing the path she'd once fled in fear and shame. They visited her old college, now with Hope as a prospective student, the young woman eager to follow in her mother's intellectual footsteps. "Are you happy we came back?" Preston asked as they strolled the college grounds, the autumn leaves crunching beneath their feet. Lily squeezed his hand, thinking of the frightened young woman she'd been and the confident wife and mother she'd become. "It's not coming back," she said thoughtfully. "It's moving forward with a clearer understanding of the past." That evening, in the privacy of their hotel room, Preston presented her with a leather-bound journal. Inside, on the first page, he'd written, "The story of us begun the day you arrived at my gate." "I thought you might like to write it down," he explained. "For the children, for their children someday." Lily traced the words with trembling fingers. "Where would I begin?" Preston smiled, the same smile that had first offered her hope when she needed it most. "At the beginning, of course." With a young woman who defied her father's warning, a child who needed protection, and a rancher who opened his gate without asking questions. Later that night, as Preston slept beside her, Lily opened the journal and began to write. The cloudless Wyoming sky burned like molten copper as I clutched my traveling case and stared at the weathered signpost marking the boundary of the Promise Creek Ranch. The story flowed from her pen, a tale of fear and courage, of judgment and acceptance, of a practical arrangement that blossomed into the deepest love she could imagine. As dawn broke over Boston, so different from the Wyoming sunrises she'd come to cherish, Lily wrote the final words. And though the path was neither straight nor easy, it led us precisely where we were meant to be together. She closed the journal, placed it on the nightstand, and curled against Preston's sleeping form. His arm instinctively tightened around her, even in sleep offering the protection and love that had transformed her life. Some said it was scandal that brought Lily Hargrove to Promise Creek Ranch that summer day in 1878. Others claimed it was fate. Lily knew it was both and neither. It was simply life, with all its unexpected turns and blessed surprises. A father's warning, a cowboy's open gate, and the love that grew between them had created something precious beyond measure. A family, a legacy, a home, and in the end, that was all that mattered.